All right, thanks everyone. I realize I'm standing between you and lunch. Hope the panel doesn't suffer from getting too hangry. Let's kick off. So, OkHi is a digital addressing system, and we're on a mission to enable the 4 billion people without a physical address to be included. So I'm Timbo Drayson, the co-founder and CEO. I was at Google, where I launched Google Maps across Africa, invented Chromecast, and have 7 patents to my name. And I'm joined by an amazing team of some of the best entrepreneurs on the continent. We've hired from OkHi and Founders Factory Africa. We're also backed by some of the best investors in the world, Google, Andreessen Horowitz, and also some local customers like InterSwitch and Flutterwave. Now, I left my dream job in the UK to move to Kenya to solve this problem that I saw when I was working on Google Maps. In the UK, the addressing system is accurate, verified, and up to date. Businesses can easily find their customers. That means your Amazon delivery will get to your door. When you open up a Monzo account, it's very easy for them to find a proof of address. It's also the reason why people pay taxes and pay their parking fines, because the addressing system means they can be found. And this actually adds over $15 billion to the UK economy every year. Unfortunately, in Africa, the addressing system is broken. It's inaccurate because there's no building names or numbers. It's unverified because having to send a physical agent is just too expensive. And it's out of date because people move and the database and data set's out of date. Now, this is a core problem because people cannot be found. And that's a core reason why people don't pay back their loan and why they'll get away with creating financial fraud. And this, in fact, by MIT, cost the Africa economy $200 billion a year. Now, we've been working on this solution. It's a really, really hard problem, but we finally cracked it. OkHi is the world's first digital address verification solution. It starts with a customer like Sterling Bank that's integrated OkHi into their mobile app. The user onboards to Sterling app and creates this accurate address with a GPS point. We then use location data in the phone and behavioral science to see how much time they're spending at that address. And our AI verification engine is then able to provide a proof of address in about 2 days. Because we're able to continuously verify the address, the real magic comes for the fact that the real world movements enables us to prove that they're a real human being, and we're also able to detect if they've moved house. This technology we've been developing for the last few years. It's built with proprietary, advanced, deep tech machine learning models that are trained on our own data set of hundreds of millions of data points. So how's the market receiving it? Well, it took us 3.5 years to onboard our first 100,000 users. And last month in May, we did it in 17 days. We're live now with 18 businesses in Nigeria, banks, fintechs, and a mobile network. And they use us to be able to be more compliant, mitigate fraud, and also improve lending. And the customers love us. We've had 0 customers churn since we launched this product 2.5 years ago. And we're now expanding outside of Nigeria. In the last month, we've had incoming inquiries with 0 marketing spend from financial services in India, Pakistan, Senegal, and also South Africa. And I'm excited to announce that last week we launched with our first international company, a pension business in Ghana last week. As a result of this, we expect to grow 10x in the next 6 months. That means we're going to grow 100x in 2024. Our business model is that it's free for the consumer, but we charge businesses a transaction fee. For the first-time verification, we charge 20 cents. If that address now exists on our database and another business wants to use it, we're able to offer that instantly at a small premium. And next month, we're launching auto re-verification, which is going to enable any business to always have an up-to-date address, and we're going to charge a small subscription fee per year. Right now, we have booked revenue of $430,000 from our current pipeline. But we also have a very tangible path to get to $100 million. If you think about it, right now, all we need is 23 contracts anywhere in the world to reach this to reach this $100 million. And right now, we already have 3 of them. And we're going to scale through partnerships. And we're already close to finalizing our partnership with Visa, who are going to resell us globally. We'll also use our own marketing channels. And we're also going to deploy sales teams in key markets. But ultimately, to build this billion-dollar business and enable this 100x return for investors, I do need capital. And I'm just closing out our $2.5 million seed round, which as of this morning is 87% subscribed. Ultimately, we're going to use this money to really prove out our network effects in Nigeria and prove that we can scale this product across anywhere in the world. So we'd love to hear from any investors here or customers, because together I know that we can enable 4 billion people without a physical address to be included. Thank you.
I have a really quick question on your users. So the numbers have grown in the last year, but what's the path to scaling that? Because it sounds to me like they're going to need to have like mobile devices. How do you actually include people who, don't have all of it? So I'm just curious to understand how you plan to scale those numbers.
So our initial market is smartphone users. And right now in Nigeria alone, there are about 50 million smartphone users, which is a seriously big market for us to tackle in Nigeria alone. Honestly, if we get to the point that we reach saturation of the smartphone market, I think it's a great problem to solve. But we are working with the mobile networks to be able to use their mobile data to be able to verify users on their feature phones.
Right. And maybe one more question on privacy, right? Because this is dependent on tracking location to a certain extent. What's your view of just like privacy from a user standpoint?
Super important. We built this whole system to make sure that we ourselves would be happy to use it. And so from a legal perspective, we are NDPR compliant in Nigeria and all those completed our GDPR compliance. The user has to opt in, and no business can access their address unless the user gives explicit permission. And the user can opt out at any point. If you think about it, it's actually a leapfrog in privacy, because every time right now you leave your address because you call up the pizza person or you leave it on a website, you actually have no control and no knowledge of actually how they're using and resetting your address. And if you live in the UK, you'll know that all that junk mailbox that comes through your letterbox is exactly that problem. And so we're creating a centralized system where we actually put the privacy in the hands of the end user.
So full disclosure, we've invested in OkHi, so I'm just here to make it look good.
You're not supposed to say that.
Full disclosure. So could you talk to us about, just so that there's a good understanding of the size of the opportunity, could you talk to us about the different use cases for this data and how you tie that with how you're acquiring new customers?
Great. So, as I implied at the beginning, there is this huge addressing problem that touches the whole economy. Right now, we're using financial services as the wedge to build the initial addressing database. But from that, our plan is to then enable any other business across the economy to use it. And we're starting to see that already. We have e-commerce businesses using it, and we want to expand that to utility companies, health services, government services. And so the strategy right now is to build the database through the financial services and then sell it across the economy, which we'll start doing next year.
And then in terms of the main use case there with the banks, you said about 20 cents that you're charging. Do you talk to us about what the alternative is for banks and how much they're spending to verify addresses?
Yeah, so the banks have a real challenge right now. They need to verify addresses, and it's important to know it's not just about compliance, it's also to reduce fraud and also improve lending. Today, the banks have 2 options. They can either do nothing, and that opens them up to fraud. It means they're paying too much for lending and potentially have to pay fines for compliance reasons. Or they have to send a physical agent to the person's door. And that costs about $1 per person, and it's also open to fraud. So we've already done a pilot test where we A/B tested our technology versus an agent verification, and we proved that we were 29% more accurate We did it 4 times faster, and we can do it 10 times cheaper.
I guess maybe one quick question still on your users. What's the incentive for users to get on OkHi?
So, in the most case, users, it's a requirement from the business to be able to collect a verified address. So if they want to get access to the financial service, they need to do it. In Nigeria, there's a tiered system. And to get to tier 3, so that you can actually hold more than $200 in your mobile wallet, you have to verify your address. Now, the user doesn't have to do it, but if they need to do verified address, then they can use it. They use OkHi to enable that. So I think the key driver, and like another example is perhaps in lending. So if the user wants to get a larger loan or something like that, the business will actually require them to use OkHi to get a verified address.
And what's the alternative right now? Just building on Eunice's question, like what do they use outside of OkHi today?
So either the user just won't get verified at all. Part of the challenge is that because the cost to verify is actually so high, the financial service financial service says they might not actually just give that user the access to the services. And so in that instant, the user might just not get access, or they'll move to another business or service. So it's very much driven by the business and customer side. And the alternative is that the user just doesn't sign up or doesn't get access to whatever the product or service that the business is offering.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. Clap for Timbo. Great day on it.